Many of us use some sort of navigation while traveling to get to our desired destination. Have you ever stopped to ask, how was this all possible? On April 25th, join us on the Sistas Talk podcast as we talk with the American mathematician hero Gladys Mae West to discuss her contributions to the mathematical modeling that were eventually incorporated into the GPS. You don't want to miss this.
Watch Danny M. and Asia Carroll on the Sistas Talk podcast.
Welcome to the Sistas Talk podcast. I'm your host, Danny M. And today we have two special guests. And we have Miss Miranda Hines. You saw her on our last show on the Sistas Talk podcast. We were interviewing Arthur Genesis Kemp. And we also have one of my other longtime friends, Nakila Reed. So ladies, introduce you guys to the audience and introduce yourselves. I don't know what I was talking about. I have my tea. I promise it's tea, y'all. Introduce yourselves to the audience. Let them know who you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm Miranda Hines, and I am a ER nurse, and I am a longtime friend of Danny, and I'm just grateful to be here. I do support Sistas Talk. Have so much of her merchandise. She's a friend of mine. Support Black business. So, hi guys.
Great.
I'm Nakila Reed. I'm a special education teacher. I'm also a longtime friend of Danielle. Long time. And I'm very proud to be here, glad to be here. Thank you to Danny and Miranda.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy to have both of you beautiful ladies on the show today. As most people have already seen, we're going to talk about post 2020 because God knows, honey, 2020 was a whole entire beast. Thank you, Shay, for joining us. Also, one of our great followers that she supports us endlessly. So I thank you so much for tuning in, Shay. So as I was saying, you guys know that 2020 was either for me, I'll say it was dynamic, it was ever changing. A lot of stuff was going on in the community. A lot of things were happening in the world. A lot of us was affected. A lot of our family members were affected by COVID-19. Things of that nature. Is a lot of changing of industries and jobs. Some people lost their jobs. Some people walked away from their jobs. Some people, moved into new territory. Some people learned to capitalize on their talents. So today we're just gonna kind of talk about all of those changes and how life has changed since 2020. But before we get into that, of course, we want to talk about some of the everyday news that everybody's reading about. And I kind of wanted to get right into the Derek Chauvin case. And we were kind of talking behind the scenes, right? And we were saying, like, do they normally name these cases after the victim or after the accuser? And guys who's watching this show, feel free to comment in the comment section below because this was something that we were talking about before we aired. Like, I'm noticing, and Miranda, I know you can expand on this. I was just kind of curious why they chose to use Derek's name versus George Floyd's name.
Yeah, as I was saying, I really feel like this is a tactic that they're using so that they can draw the attention away from everybody because they're using the aggressor of the situation because he wasn't as known as George Floyd. When everything happened after his death, all the riots, they were not because of only George Floyd, but because of everything, like you said, that had happened. Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, everybody, all of the victims. God, it's so many people that died last year because of Black on white crime. white on black crime, sorry. And, you know, it's they like to say, oh, well, black people are always black on black crime, but it's never because of the color of their skin. You know, you have not ever heard of a black person killing another black person because they were lighter skinned or darker skinned. And that was a police officer. George Floyd is the victim. It should be about him and his family getting the justice that they deserve. It's not really about the aggressor, in my opinion. It should be about George Floyd and his family getting the justice that they deserve, which we all know. And
Right.
we've seen that, you know, this is another tactic that they're doing so that they can take the, you know, the media is spinning it. They always are spinning things like this. So it's just my opinion.
Yeah. Nakila, what's your take on it?
I feel like they are trying to find, I guess, underlying fault on George Floyd's path, on his behalf, as to why he did die. Not they're trying to say that he had this in his system, he had that in his system. He already had some underlying health issues. Then he was I guess kind of acting kind of irate, like when they got there with the store clerk and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I still feel like that it is the police officer's fault for having him down. Even when they talk about the monoxide coming from the exhaust of the police car, they're still at the fault of the police officer having him down on the ground in that position. It still leads back to the police officer. But I feel as though they're going to try to find some type of fault on George Floyd's path to lessen the punishment for the police officer.
And so for some people that are keeping up with the case, you know, I noticed that Derek has also pled the fifth, right? And we were kind of talking about this also behind the scenes. It's like, well, you don't even have to say anything at this point. The video speaks for itself. Everybody saw it. Everybody saw it. So so everybody's familiar with this case. We just kind of wanted to touch on that to open up. Sad situation. Really hoping and praying that, you know, for George Floyd's sake, his family gets the justice that is deserved to them, and also that should be served out of our nation, you know. And police officers are supposed to be there to protect and serve, you know, and keep the honor of our nation going. But as we can see, you know, there's a lot of people who need to be retrained. There's a lot of people who need to work on those, not necessarily soft people skills, but just having the ability to communicate without pulling for a weapon. You know, we could just go on and on about this topic. There was another young man, unfortunately, who was killed in the same state. You know, this keeps happening. I mean, it can't be considered as a mistake if it continues to happen. You know, every 3 to 6 months, we're looking up into the same scenarios playing out in our nation. So we'll get off of that topic because that's a really heavy topic, obviously, for another time. But feel free, guys that are listening, to weigh in on it, and you know, let us know what your opinions are about the Derek Chauvin case. I gave this man a whole new name. I'm sorry. Anyway, so I want to talk about the next topic, the next news topic, which is Defense Department confirms leaked video of unidentified aerial phenomenon. And so for people who don't know what that is, that's a UFO, guys. What did I tell you? See, if you watch the Sistas Talk podcast, I foreshadow all of this information. I told you guys last year, what's next? The only thing next that could possibly happen to blow our minds is if they come out and say UFOs are real. So now what does this mean, guys? This means that the U.S. Navy, you know, DOD, all these great government, you know, companies that work for our corporation, which is the U.S. of America, they've been seeing these things and they didn't deny it this time. You know why? Like, why do you think, Miranda, they didn't deny it?
Distraction. Girl, distraction. It's all about distraction. The media they're not the main culprit, but they're a part of it, you know. The 1%ers, you know, they really don't care about what's going on. But hey, if we let them get riled up again about that George Floyd stuff, they're going to tear this damn country down. So, let's talk about this. Like it's something new. It is nothing new. And you know the media is so crafty. They're so crafty. They were publicizing everything that was happening. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, breaking news. We've seen UAVs. I watched that same video that you're talking about, and girl, that happened a while back. And they're just now. And they're saying, oh, we're going to release a statement to the president so that we can make it unclassified. It's like, really, just to drag our attention from something that's important.
Yeah.
So, Nakila, it sounds like you're agreeing. So, but what's your take? I mean, you just going down the street, you want to go to the store and get a loaf of bread and some milk. I don't know, maybe even some chicken. You're going to make some chicken wings tonight. I don't know what you're doing. But you just happen to see a being that you're not used to seeing walking on the street. What are you gonna do?
I don't. We have seen things, and it wasn't. We really couldn't explain it, and it was actually my husband and I driving down. We were going down Loop 12, and in front of us, in front of us on the road in front of us, you could see, and it was circulating, and you could see the shadow on the pavement in front of us as we're driving, and it's moving as we're driving. But when we look up in the sky, it was nothing there.
Wow.
And we just, we bring it up and we talk about it every now and again.
Did you notice, Danny, that? No, they couldn't finish. I was gonna ask Danny something. Finish.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. It's fine.
No, I was gonna ask that you noticed on that video they were all above the clouds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, Nakila. That's when I watched the video, all of the different ones they had were above the clouds, and that's interesting because you're saying that you saw the circle. These were airmen, and they were saying on the video they're going against the speed of 140 knots, and I looked that up. That is fast.
That's super fast.
Yes, super fast. They were saying they're going against the wind. And you say that you saw it spinning, but you couldn't see anything. That's
what you call a cloaking. So whatever it was just cloaking to its environment. So y'all know I'm a big space head. I'm a huge sci-fi girl. I have physics, all that kind of stuff in my background for a reason. I love this, but I just think it's so sad, and off-putting that they use this now as a distraction. Like you said, Miranda, and also you, Nakila, we've been knowing other things are out there, or we should know that at least. Yeah. If we exist, how come other things can't? And then, some people who are, and this is not to go against anybody's religion, but we're in a time now in 2021. If you don't know by now, there's other things going on outside of your religion that you're completely out of control. I mean, it's out of your control is what I mean. So we got to stop boxing our beliefs inside of what we were told to do and start thinking for ourselves. Yeah. But on a serious note, though, I'm not even looking at the rest of the world the same way now that they actually confirmed it. It's one thing to believe, it's another thing for them to confirm. And I'm saying to myself, if we can't even get along based on skin color, bringing in another species, what are we going to do? Talk about equal opportunity.
Yeah. That's amazing. I hadn't thought about that.
I thought about it a long time ago because I'm like, we're doing a poor job just getting along with each other right now. So bringing in another species, people are going to lose their mind. But, I digress because I don't want to get people on a nervous fence. But, it's just something to talk about because it's good that they're finally being honest. The United Nations, they were insisting that our government release these files years ago. I'll never forget on C-SPAN 2, I was on my way to work and I stopped just to watch it. This was back in 2013, I believe. And this man from the UN, one of their officials was demanding our government to release the files. He was like, too many people are seeing events or seeing strange objects that they can't explain. The people need to know the truth. And we do. I think we do. It's time.
Well, on Independence Day, Will Smith and the other guy, they bonded. Maybe it'll bring us together as a country.
Girl, I don't know. Look at what they had to go through just to get there. I want to learn the easy way, not the hard way. Anyways, so now we're going to get on topic to what we actually came here to talk about today. And that's just living life after 2020. I kind of want to know, ladies, and I'll start with you, Nakila. How did 2020 and all of the events that transpired in that year, how has it affected you And how has it changed you or motivated you to do something that you never thought you would?
With 2020 of last year, because of the occupation that I'm in, it totally changed everything. From when we had to shut down, we couldn't be face to face with the kids anymore. Everything was virtual. And on top of that, also having my own children that also had to go virtual. It was a lot. It was a lot. And I know it was a lot on the other parents also, especially with, the kids that have disabilities and them trying to take over their role as trying to educate and keep them focused. It was a lot. But we adapted and we were very flexible to try to, still reach them as much as we possibly could. At the same time, with my own children, it was a big distraction being at home with mom all day, being at home with dad all day, and having access to TV, game, and food all throughout the day. The lack of structure, they did become a little bit distracted. So it was actually like double the work for me.
Yeah, a little bit. That was to say it the light way. These kids get completely distracted
Yeah.
if they're at home.
So like I
Definitely,
said, we're still adapting because even now all of our kids are not face to face. The special education department, we were the first ones who had to go back face to face, and our kids were also the first ones who had to come back in person, face to face. But at the same time, we still have parents who opt for virtual. So you're trying to teach in person and online, and also accommodate them and all of their needs. You just have to kind of think outside of the box and you know be very, very flexible.
wow, that sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, a lot of patience involved too. So, thank you for that response, Nakila. And so, Miranda, how would you say like 2020 has changed you, or the path that you were originally on? Has that deflected now? As a result of the events from 2020.
Well, first I want to say, Nakila, thank you so much for what you do. I was greatly affected. I have 4 children, and I have a freshman who she was so angry that she could not go back to school because this is her freshman year. She's excited. First off, 8th grade, they didn't get to have their prom. They didn't get to have their trips, and she was just so angry about it. And then starting freshman year, she's like, I'm still gonna be like new next year. Like she was like, she feels very cheated out of it, and my son is in the 4th grade, and this is why I thank you, Nakila. Let me tell you something. My son, whew, this child wasn't distracted. He's a mastermind. He done tricked me into doing all his work for him, y'all. When I say my son would tell me that the teacher, he would show me his little work and then say, this is what she told us to do. And I would go online because, I'm not knowing everything. So I look at it and I'm like, oh, well, let me help you because, I'm thinking, face to face, they used to go to the board, they do examples, they do classwork. So maybe he needs that. Y'all, when I tell y'all this kid had me doing all this work.
He's a mastermind.
He is a mastermind. I finally got to the point, not by myself. I was definitely, my best friend, he assisted me to understand that, I am not allowing my son to do the work himself. And he showed me this by helping my son and then showing me how my son was capable of doing it. And he's just like playing me. So through that, I also was pregnant and I had a 2-year-old that I'm like working on. We doing alphabets, and I would have to like stop helping her because my son is, so that's why I called him a mastermind, girl. When I finally said, you know what, you better pay attention, get it. He done caught on. So Lord Jesus. So besides that, y'all, I lost my job. And Danny, you didn't even know this, but I went on maternity leave and I had been at this place for 9 years. And the lady at the front office said, well, you don't have to just take 6 weeks. You can have 3 months. And I was like, oh, okay. Right. So I took the 3 months. Y'all, after 6 weeks, I didn't know, but I called after my 3 months. Me and the boss, we had set me up a schedule, y'all, to go back to work. And she said, you need to call the front office because I cannot find you on the scheduler. I said, what? So I called the front office and they say, oh, you didn't get your letter? We resigned your contract. Yeah. So because of COVID, because they needed nurses, they pretty much let me go and gave somebody else my spot. I had been there 9 years. 9 years. So, and it was when I finally got to talk to my boss, they needed nurses because, like you said, Danny, people were transitioning out. You had a lot of nurses that are older that have been, still working, and they were like, we ain't dealing with this. And they were retiring, and so they needed more staff. Then you had a lot of ER nurses that went to COVID floors and they went to ICU because they were, and they won't tell y'all this, but in the beginning, they weren't paying us COVID pay. You know how the only way you were getting COVID pay is after the patient was diagnosed with COVID. Now, this is the crazy part. Do we think they got COVID once they got on the 4th floor? No, they came in with COVID. But, that's why you had a lot of nurses on Facebook making videos and saying, that it wasn't supplies and it wasn't this and it wasn't that. I've been very blessed. Everywhere I was at a place that had supplies. We were a smaller hospital and we had the supplies that we needed. Did our supplies look like that of China? No. When you compare what China had compared to what we had, we were not prepared in that stance. But, COVID affected, in my opinion, the patients that, diabetes, blood pressure, and things like that. Black communities, we don't have choices that are better food, like the greens and things like that. So you have to go out of the community. Well, when you start to make people have to quarantine and, the children that have been providing for these families, they're not able to come and be a part because now they're at home having to teach their child and then, teach the babies online. It just was a lot of things that were affecting, older patients. And unfortunately, we were seeing a lot in the community I was in, 9 nursing homes was around there. And, it was sad, the families couldn't go in like they had been doing. They had to, the videos y'all saw of the people talking to the families through the windows, it's reality. They were not letting these people in the nursing homes. And so, you have a lot of people that do take care of their families. They go take them fresh meals and things like that, and they weren't getting that. Now they're eating pretty much stuff that is processed and not as healthy. So 2020 was, just on the standpoint of COVID was hard. I don't take the flu shot and I will not be getting the COVID vaccine. But, there are people that are comparing COVID to the flu. And in my opinion, that's like comparing measles to chickenpox. They're not the same thing, people do die at greater numbers. They've shown through the flu, but think about how long the flu has been around.
Right.
We're comparing statistics that have been here for decades to something that literally we've only been experiencing. We're on our 2nd year, just the 2nd year, y'all. And they, are saying, now the state of Texas is open. You're not required to wear a mask anymore. And
boy, are we? Woo! I was out this weekend. I mean, everybody was out.
Yeah, I think you jumped the gun on that one because you gave us a stimulus check right before spring break, and then said that we were not required to wear a mask anymore. It was like too much at one time, and then they show all these recordings of the people and they're partying and everybody's out there together. That was like too quick, too soon, because it hasn't gone away. And my TA lost like 5 family members on one side from COVID in a matter of months. It was like every other week she was coming in and getting phone calls while we were in the classroom, and somebody else has died. Somebody else has died, and they had to get tested before they went to the funeral and all this stuff. It was really a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
One thing. Okay.
No, I was just gonna say I'm sorry to hear that, because it has been very hard on the Black community. There are people that are saying, you know, that like the vaccines are given more to Caucasian, you know, European Americans than they are in the Black communities. And it is sad, and I have seen the statistics, and it's crazy, because African Americans, we have, because of food choices, you know, the way that you gave us scrapings, and then we learned to turn scrapings into delicacy. You know, we learned to turn those into delicious meals, which were passed down over generation and generation. And now you have people who are, you know, they're stuck on, you know, their fried chicken and their, you know, smothered pork chops and things like that, which are not as healthy. And I'm only saying that to say, you know, your TA, what I noticed is that a lot of families were affected, and it's like generational, because mama had diabetes, daddy had blood pressure, the son in turn had, you know, either one of those, high cholesterol, and it, you know, and so remember I said how they were limiting the exposure to the patients in the nursing homes. Well, if these families were all, you know, mingling with each other, because they are, you know, I don't know who wasn't, you know, seeing their parents, you know, that are not in nursing homes, you know, so like we were all seeing each other, our close immediate family, you know, and so those people were getting sick, and then that's how they were losing like entire families, you know, and that is so sad, and I'll be praying for them. I hate that for her. It's so sad.
I tried to stay away from my parents. I didn't see her for probably a month, going on 2 months.
Mhm.
And I was really afraid because of my children. And I know that they were still out and still, you know, kind of still doing little league football and everything like that. And I didn't want them to transmit anything to their grandparents. And she would, you know, she wanted us to come out there. But I'm like, no, mom, because I'm really afraid. And it was very taxing on the families emotionally not to be able to see each other, the ones who took it seriously, you know, not to be able to see each other. So then it goes to trying to Zoom and trying to teach your parents how to Zoom so they can see the grandkids and things like that. And that was a challenge. And also with her, also being a nurse like you, and I, you know, my hats off to y'all, because, you know, y'all work very hard, like every single day, trying to help other people and save their lives, and trying to help her to learn how to use her computer at home for her job. Because then they had to start seeing patients, doing teletherapy and all this, you know, different things. So, and it was very hard for her being, you know, an older person, not really knowing that much about technology. So it was stressful for them too. You know, it was, yeah. 2020 was something else amongst other things that went on. It was a lot going on in 2020, like a lot.
Yeah. There was so much going on, seriously. And I will say that a lot of bad happened, but also a lot of good. A lot of people were able to find their way. A lot of people were able to determine who were really their friends, who was really a supportive family member, so to speak. You kind of were able to draw real serious lines in the sand to determine, okay, is this person there for me or not? Does this person really love me or care about me? And let's talk a little bit about relationships. I'm pretty sure 2020 definitely gave you something to think about as it relates to relationships or whoever you were talking to, because if they didn't show in some type of way they cared, because a lot of people were on straight lockdown, they couldn't go anywhere. If you needed food or something, you needed to depend on somebody else who didn't mind going out to risk themselves. then if they didn't do it for you, that kind of let you know where you stood with them. Just saying.
You
They didn't
feel
come to
that
your
way?
house. I feel that way. If they didn't come to your house with a face mask on, and if they didn't show you any, I'm talking about if they didn't show you support when you needed it. If you asked them directly, I'm speaking from a place. If you ask them directly for this help, and they say, "Oh no, I can't do it," or they fall short with providing some type of form of help in some kind of way. Uber Eats made so much money in 2020.
Yeah.
DoorDash made so much money in 2020. There were new businesses popping up to deliver alcohol. People were stressing out. So I'm just saying, if you were in that situation, where you had to ask someone for help, they didn't volunteer or they just didn't follow through, they'll let you know where you stood with them. That's just my opinion as the AKA relationship coach that I am. Holler at me if you need some help. So, but for real, like you got to keep that in mind. Like, and then Shay says 2020 was a beast, starting with the death of Kobe Bryant. Facts. I'll never forget. I was actually on my way. My oldest daughter and I were on our way to Grade A Radio to do a show for Sistas Talk Podcast. And all of a sudden, on the radio, they say, we have breaking news to report. That threw me completely off. That was really truly the starting point of all of this prep. And then following that, as Shay says, COVID showed us the value people placed on life. It's true. I mean, this thing didn't start here in America. It started elsewhere. They say Wuhan, China, but we don't really know. But all I do know is it took out a lot of people in Italy. They had up to 900 deaths in one day. These beautiful places that we dream of traveling to, some of us have already been there before, but for some of us like myself, I've never been to Italy. And for me to have that tarnished image of it now because of what COVID did to it, I'll never look at it the same way. And God knows how many years it's going to take, right? For that country to get back to some place of normalcy. This is just terrible. The amount of grandparents, great uncles, great aunts who have passed on because of the disease, their immune systems weren't strong enough. So, I mean, it's just, I tell you, we went through one hell of a year last year, but kudos to everybody who put 10 toes down and stayed strong, and found ways to get through. I mean, I want to speak towards Miranda. The fact that your company did that without letting you know is ridiculous. While we understand business, we get it. You need to fill those shoes, but do things the right way. You know what I mean? And for them to do that while you were on maternity leave, I almost feel like that was illegal to do. But if they say they mailed out the letter, it's kind of like their word against yours. But, I'm just saying, I do believe that there is a law. If somebody quote me in the audience who's looking right or watching right now, I thought that there was a law to protect women while you're out on maternity leave, that a company is not allowed to let you go during that time period, if I'm not mistaken.
I hope that it is, and I wish that it. I hope that it is one, because I was at a company, Chase, and they put me on a denied maternity leave.
She said the company name.
Like
She said
nobody. Like I couldn't deny being pregnant. And
they said that to me.
I couldn't deny being pregnant, but they put me on a denied maternity leave. I wasn't allowed to sit down while I was at work. So I got put into that while I was at work because I wasn't allowed to have a chair. I'm like 200 plus pounds and not allowed to have a chair, anything. And because my manager filled out the paperwork wrong, they denied me maternity leave. So I was out, no pay, no nothing.
Wow, that was not supposed to happen. So anybody that's a lawyer that's paying attention to this show today, please reach out to us. You can go straight to this email, and I'll make sure to get the information over to Nakila Reed and Miranda Hines, because this is crazy that you guys have paralleling, stories in some sense about the mistreatment of women while we're pregnant. I mean, God, we're life bearers. We should have companies now. We're in 2021. We should be able to create a safe space for ladies who become pregnant while on the job. I mean, we're creating a life. It takes 9 months. It takes, our bodies are becoming disfigured. We're hungry. We're emotional. We're whatever you can think of. Our hormones are going up and down. So these CEOs and these people who own these businesses, you guys have to think ahead, man. We have to be more forward thinking. We're not in 1950s anymore. I don't understand why we're not moving and changing with the needs of society.
Right. And especially during a pandemic, that was very inconsiderate of them to do that.
Extremely. Very heartless. And that's the
You
thing
know, and
about
it's the crazy thing is she said something to me just like they said to you. She said, well, it's not technically a disability because nobody told you to get pregnant. And I was like, y'all. I
that
have
has
this
to be
other person.
that has to be some type of violation. That's crazy.
Ooh, I have this other person, before Christ, and I have to all the time remind myself, that this is my license. This is how I feed my children. I told her, you know what? Don't worry about it. And at the time, like my anger was so high. I was like, I'm just going to get a lawyer and I'm just going to take care of that. And then when I started to looking into the cost, I was like, yeah, I'll just look for another job.
Well, there is something called North Texas lawyers, I believe, or lawyers of North Texas, where they'll actually take some cases for pro bono. So they won't charge you. If your case is something they believe they can win, they'll take it on for free.
I looked into it, and you pretty much have to be on welfare. So I did. They were the first company that I looked into, and they denied me. And I was I was getting what's it called, unemployment at the time. They said I made too much with unemployment.
I believe that. I do believe that. I'm sorry that happened too. We have Shay says, oh my God, I was in the Army when I was pregnant with my son and had better treatment than this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shay, girl, you and me got a lot in common. I had my first child in the military, and I said I thought the same thing when that happened to me, because when I had my child in the military, it was nothing. They was like, oh, just fill out this paper. I turned it in. They was like, we'll see you when you come back. It was nothing.
Yeah. I guess it just depends on the industry, And this is a topic that I was having with a few of my friends on yesterday. We were talking about the dynamics of racism in this country, and how it differs from industry to industry. And it's sad but true, but racism just doesn't look the same in certain industries. You know what I mean? Just like how discrimination we're talking about based on sex in this particular case. It's not going to look the same in the nursing industry as it will look in the educational industry, or in the oil and gas industry. So the same applies for any type of discrimination. Depending on where you are, what type of people encompass those industries will determine the type of treatment you're going to receive based on their culture, their development, the type of people that they hire. There's so many different factors that go into this. But the main point of what I've been seeing, especially here in 2021, discrimination still hasn't left. No matter how many policies you implement, no matter how many documents you have assigned, no matter how many training classes you have on, it's important not to discriminate based on sex, age, color, religion, but we're still doing it. So then the question is, what can we do moving forward to change the dynamics of this condition in our workplace? Because truth be told, our environmental stress plays a lot on our health. Not just mental, our physical health. And we're not talking enough about that either, especially for women. For some reason, we're ultra sensitive to our environmental stresses. And so this brings me up to another topic. We kind of talked about how, should you stay with a company that's paying you a lot of money just because, hey, I'm getting paid, I'm getting good benefits, but your health is being compromised? The answer is no. If anything's implementing that much stress or taking that much of you away from you, and also remember, if it's taken away from you, it's also taken away from you and your family. You should never stay somewhere, no matter how fat they make your pockets, because if you have talent and you can identify that talent, then you can capitalize in your own lane with your own talents. No, don't stay somewhere where the environment is going to be oppressive, and it's also going to suppress your immune system, for instance. These things happen every day. People develop illnesses and sicknesses that they didn't even know. It's nowhere in their DNA. It's nowhere in their hereditary line. It was created and superimposed based upon this environmental element. And people are not talking about that. Hashtag, I'm not a doctor. I'm just simply saying from experience, right? I'm saying from experience that I've seen this happen to me. When I removed myself from a toxic environment, I was able to flourish in ways that I never imagined. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Like Shay said, she was saying that anxiety and depression elevated during this pandemic. And she's right. Not only do you need to be in an environment that mentally stimulates you, you also need to be around other people. Human interaction is necessary. So the fact that, you go somewhere and then you feel like you cannot be around your other coworkers because of how they treat you, or how the environment is, like when I read your book, Female Minority Report, if you're not able to perform at your highest level, because every time you say something, that they're going to say to, oh, she's got an attitude, or she's aggressive, or, they're giving your work to someone else and giving them the credit for it, you're not going to want to be around everybody else, because now it's like, I don't want to say anything because somebody's going to steal my ideas. And, it makes you on the inside, it drains your energy. And then when you go home, it's like, if you're not one of those type of people, because like me on the way home, like I'm blasting my music, I'm dancing, I'm trying to get all that, that negativity, at work, because, and it's in my environment, it's not negative because of people, it's the things that I see and I deal with. I'm a carer, I'm a nurturer. So I naturally want to take all my patients and just love them and fill them up with what they need. But, if I allow that to drain me mentally when I come home, I'm not going to be able to take care of what I need to take care of here. And it's like you said, Danny, it takes a toll on your health. And you don't have to be a doctor to know that. You can just use your prior experience. If you think about something long enough, you start to get headaches. Once you get the headache, you start to feel ill inside, your body starts to ache. This is nothing to do with being you don't have to be a doctor to know that. You are correct. If your energy is not at the right level, you cannot perform the way you need to, and your body starts to deteriorate. Well, not physically, but
Yeah, I got you. Certain things start happening. You start developing things like arthritis, or like you said, migraines, or it could be a number of things. And it's so sad because a lot of these people walk around not knowing this, and they're going to the doctor, they're spending all these expensive bills, doctor bills, hospital bills, and nobody's simply told them, hey, let me ask you a question. What kind of stress are you dealing with in your life?
Yeah.
So it starts there. You gotta find out. Stress can do some unimaginable things to the body. People don't know that, but the term stress can kill. That's her true statement.
Very true. Very true.
So
And
Stephanie says, "Oh, go ahead. Go ahead."
well, in 2020, I also lost a friend who had, she was under a lot of stress from dealing with home life and work life. And a couple years back, she had already suffered a stroke and an aneurysm. Being stressed, it will kill. And I received a phone call last year, and I didn't know anything had happened because I had just talked to her like 2 weeks prior. And they was like, "Did you hear what happened?" I'm like, "No, I didn't." And then they told me, what happened to her, and you know, kids left behind. You have to take care of yourself. Mental health is so important. Along with her, I had two other friends, and of course, from last year to this year, that they were both affected by suicide. And like no prior signs, it was just kind of out of the blue. And with one, and then with the other, it was just like really, like what is going on? And I've never was the person that could say, "Oh, I know somebody who did this," or "I know somebody who's been affected by suicide," or this, and that. And now it's like the numbers are steady going, and these are like close friends, and these were close family members who who decided to commit suicide.
So sorry to
Sorry
hear
for
that.
that. Sorry for your loss.
Ooh, and
Thank you so much. But y'all, like mental health, y'all, you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anyone else. And mental
that's
health is
it.
so important. Find somebody or some type of outlet, some type of positive outlet, or someone to talk to. And like you said, checking in, checking in with each other and who's around you when you need something. Even maybe they don't want you to give them any type of advice. Maybe they just want you to be a listening ear, but just really, paying attention to those around you that you really care about. And, kind of noticing that, hey, maybe something is off with this person, or I kind of feel like this person is not acting like usual. Just, pay attention to yourself and what you're feeling, and also those around you.
Great advice. Great advice. I mean, it goes a long way when you just take out 5 minutes of your day to either text or call somebody and say, hey, I was thinking about you. I haven't talked to you in a while. I mean, look, Nakila, you do it all the time. Hey, girl, I haven't talked to you in a while. You just did that to me yesterday. I just want to make sure everything's all good. It really does go a long way because you don't know what people are facing internally. On the outside, we're always smiling. Something I realized too recently, the people who smile the most are the ones that are going through the most. I had no idea, when you sit down and talk to people and really understand where they're coming from and give them that safe space to talk and be themselves, you'd be surprised what you'll find out. So I want to definitely read some of these comments. So Stephanie says, hi, Queens. Stress is a signal for a need to reclaim your inner peace. Could not agree more. In my medical practice, I coach patients on how to rid themselves of stress. The only prescription I give is a prescription of self-love. Come on now, she's preaching. She's preaching on this Sunday. Shay says, absolutely true. And it's true. We talk about self-love this, self-love that, but to say it and to do it are two totally different things, And that relates to, even with your family. You can't, as women especially, now men, I'm talking to you too, because there's a lot of single fathers out there too. Much respect to you, by the way. But you can't give everyone everything. You have to check in with yourself every day, sometimes multiple times a day. If you're feeling drained, you need to ask yourself, okay, so what am I doing? Am I overthinking something? Am I worried about something? Is someone or something causing stress upon me where I'm to the point where I can't even think straight? I've been that stressed before. I'm being honest and open, not here recently, but I have in the past. And so what I had to do is sit down and self-evaluate. You have to self-evaluate every day. You got to make that a part of your day-to-day life, because if you don't, you'll end up, damaging your mind and your body. Your mind is a powerful, powerful tool. I don't think people realize just how powerful it is. It's so powerful that you can manifest your entire life. You say tomorrow you want to get married. Well, if you do everything that you're supposed to do with the great intention of getting married, maybe by next year you will be with a baby on the way. Who knows? But your mind can manifest anything that you believe. So it's important that we get that in check. So Shay says people think PTSD is only connected to veterans, but the way the world is, everyone has some form of PTSD. We all need help. Come on. Definitely agree with that. And so does anybody on the show, before we get ready to wrap up, do anyone that you guys know right now currently suffer from PTSD?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I have people in my family also that suffer from it as well. So it's a very serious issue. It's definitely not talked about enough. And so I just want to encourage people who are suffering from that, reach out. If you need to email Sistas Talk, you see my email below, reach out to me. I don't mind talking. I love coaching people. I'm talking about this will be a conversation for absolutely free. Sometimes people just need someone to talk to that they know is not going to go out and tell their business. I'm that person. I don't play when it comes to people's business. I draw the line. So I would never, echo anything that you tell me. And I want to help my community. That's the whole purpose of this podcast. That's the entire purpose of this platform. So don't ever feel like your situation is so embarrassing, or you feel like, nobody's going to understand. It's always somebody out there who's either gone through what you're going through or know someone that they love that's close to them that's currently going through that. So don't ever make that assumption. We're all dealing with something. And I want to thank everybody too who tuned into our show today, that heard us out. We started out talking about Derek Chauvin's case, and we was kind of floated over into the UFOs, and then we started talking about life after 2020. And 2020 was a beast. 2021 is kind of looking similar. It's looking like a low-key twin, but hopefully we can get things together. We can get this virus under control. We can get our mindsets under control. We can learn to start respecting each other fully, both in and out of the workplace, inside of our homes as well. There's a lot of people dealing with disrespectful, significant others, boyfriends, whatever you want to call it, girlfriends, wives. So we have to learn to respect each other, and we have to learn how to work together. I think I definitely have a feeling that we need to have a show on our next segment about friendships, because when I tell you, there's people out here right now, friends with a toxic person that's calling themselves a friend. They're not really a friend. They're jealous, they're envious, they're hateful, whatever, because they're dealing with their own demons, right? But I think it's so essential, like what I'm going to echo what you said, Miranda, earlier. Surrounding yourselves around people who echo your energy, that's going to uplift and bring your frequency up. When you're around individuals who can't understand who you are, what your purpose is, why you're so happy, those aren't your friends. So why continue to put yourself around that negative energy? They're only gonna, at the end of the day, lower your frequency.
That's right.
I learned early on in life to remove myself from people who purposely, intentfully try to not understand me, if that makes sense. Like you, with intention, you don't want to understand because you just don't want to understand. Well, then you have to understand, I'm gonna intentionally walk away from the friendship. I'm not gonna go to any more functions. We're not going to sit down and have tea and talk because we're not on the same frequency. And that's no disrespect to that person or those individuals, but you just have to know where you stand in people's lives. And you also have to be able to be strong enough to draw the line for people who don't serve you any good anymore.
That's right. I've walked away from some people that I thought would be with me forever. For the right reason, just like you said, when you start to realize that, like you said earlier in the segment, when you start to ask somebody for something and it's a basic need and they cannot be there for you, but you've done beyond the basics for them, you have to walk away. And it was hard for me in the past, but I just realized that, like you, Danny, and it wasn't early on. I was in my 20s, like late 20s. I had to realize, that when you're being so much to somebody else, they're stealing your energy, because while you're, and I'm extremely friendly, and I'm just a lot of energy. But when you're sharing your energy with people and they're not returning, it's like, you're emptying yourself. And you're never being refilled because they're just taking and taking and taking. So you have to take back your energy. You have to remove yourself.
Definitely. Nakila, do you have anything to echo on that?
No, because, I kept my circle pretty tight. I only have a few people, and that's all I need.
I know that's right.
So,
everybody.
I just can't. You can't give too much of yourself where you have nothing left for you at the end of the day. I
agree. And we can't go around mixing energies either, because everybody's energy is not meant to mix with yours. You know what I mean?
That's right.
And when people start seeing, you have to. And when you start seeing yourself as sacred, as you should, because you are a sacred being, you have a sacred soul, then you'll start understanding better the importance of sometimes just being to yourself. You don't always have to be around a crowd of people. There's some people who have that need, the necessity to have friends and to be around large numbers. You just need that one good friend. Sometimes you just need yourself. You know what I mean? Like it's not, society has created this facade or this image that, oh, you're doing good and you're successful if you have a large family, if you have a husband or a wife, if you have like 10 friends, that's not everybody's life. So don't go around feeling depressed, because that's not reality for some people. Everybody has their own reality. So we definitely need to cover this one day on a whole entire segment on friendships and the importance of, just keeping your energy safe, because there are energy vampires out there ready to suck you dry. And we'll end on that note. I want to thank you guys for coming on to the show today. Nakila Reed, Miranda Hines, my longtime friends. This was truly a real Sisters Talk segment. We were talking like we would be talking on the phone. And we hope that you guys enjoyed this show. Let me get this last few. See here. Shay says peace, and peace of mind is priceless. Come on. The older you get, the more you'll respect and understand that statement. That's right. And so next Sunday, we're going to have Miss Gladys May West on the show. So for people who don't know who Gladys May West is, she is the Black female mathematician behind the GPS. So everybody from a global stance is using the GPS. Like I know I need it for most places that I go, especially when I go out into another state or other cities, for vacation or just for work. So the fact that this woman has not been mentioned in Black history in schools is just beyond me. If she has been mentioned, she has not been mentioned enough. And also, too, what I want to try to put it into with this segment, with this platform, is stop saying Black History Month. Black history is our American history. It is our history. And so we have to treat it as such. And I am extremely honored to have her on the show next Sunday. She's 91 years old. So this is going to be a pretty short segment, but it's going to be full of important content. I'm going to ask her the questions everybody wants to ask her. What was it like working with all those people who didn't like you? Things like that. How can you be so great, which really speaks to who she is as an individual? How can you be so great around such hatred and negativity? So I can't wait to see what her answers are going to be on the show on Sunday. And ladies, you guys, I want to thank you so much for being guests. As always, to the audience, thank you so much for supporting the Sistas Talk podcast. Make sure you like, comment, share. Share my sister Miranda. Share my sister Nakila. I've been knowing these girls I'm not even going to tell you how long I've been knowing them. So anyway, look, we're not as young as we look. But I want to thank you guys for tuning into the Sistas Talk podcast. You continue to be blessed, stay safe, and we'll see you on April 25th. Bye, guys.